Being a Hollywood super couple is no walk in the park, as double the power usually means double the attention in Tinseltown. Will Smith and his outspoken other half Jada have gotten used to that over the course of their 20-year marriage, though that doesn't mean they always know how to handle the heat of the spotlight. A series of public scandals combined with a period of professional decline has led to their stock dropping significantly in Hollywood, to the point that the community they were once very much a vital part of has started to turn their back on them. This is why Hollywood can't stand Will and Jada Pinkett Smith anymore. High hopes. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air's original Aunt Viv, actress Janet Hubert, has a long history of feuding with the Smiths, and that came to a head in 2016 when she advised the couple via the Los Angeles Times, "You're not kings and queens, you're not royalty, you're simply entertainers." That's not how the Smiths always see it, however, especially Will. Back in 2007, the Men in Black star told Daily Mail that his ambition was to be the first black president in American history, saying, "I'm going to be president of the United States. I always wanted to be the first black president, but Barack Obama stole my idea. That's okay with me. Barack can go first, and then I'll take my turn."
That's true. What can I do?
You did the right thing.
I did the right thing.
Smith restarted the rumor mill towards the end of 2015 when he said, "If people keep saying all the crazy kinds of stuff they've been saying on the news lately about walls and Muslims, they're going to force me into the political arena." It's certainly not unheard of for an entertainer to achieve political heights, but given some of their other controversial connections and recent setbacks, it might be a tougher road for Smith to travel. Oscar boycott backlash. When Will Smith didn't get a Best Actor nomination for 2015's Concussion, despite the Oscar buzz that surrounded the biographical football film, Jada announced her intention to boycott the Oscars for the lack of diversity in nominees, and Will ultimately supported his wife's stance in the press.
I think that diversity is the American superpower.
While some rallied to the cause, like director Spike Lee, some of the Smiths' peers took a different stance. At the American Black Film Festival Awards, Jamie Foxx said that they needed to #act better if they expected to win awards. And even Oscar host Chris Rock took a swipe at her in his opening monologue.
Jada boycotting the Oscars is like me boycotting Rihanna's panties. I wasn't invited.
In other words, if this was an effort to establish a political platform for the pair, it didn't receive the kind of resounding praise they were probably hoping for. Kooky kids. It's no secret that Will and Jada have raised their children to embrace their unique identities, but when the two youngest, Willow and Jaden, spoke to T Magazine in 2014, it became very clear just how eccentric these celeb children had become. In the chat, Jaden revealed that his goal in life was to be the most craziest of all time, while Willow touted her ability to manipulate time, saying, "I mean, time for me, I can make it go slow or fast, however I please, and that's how I know it doesn't exist." Because of this and other interview snippets, the kids have been consistently blasted for being spoiled and self-centered by the press. Their personal philosophies notwithstanding, Willow and Jaden's careers in music and acting have become front and center of the Smith family's energy lately, and the two have had mixed successes in both mediums. Will and Jada's hands-off attitude towards their kids' oddball behaviors became troublesome for the pair in 2014, after a picture of their daughter in bed with a shirtless 20-year-old man sparked a police investigation. The Los Angeles Department of Children and Family Services were called to look into the snap of the then 13-year-old Willow, which was taken and posted online by actor Moises Arias, but removed shortly afterwards. The Smiths cooperated with the authorities over the investigation, but Jada took a different approach when it came to the press. She later said of the incident, "Here's the deal, there was nothing sexual about that picture or that situation. You guys are projecting your trash onto it, and you're acting like covert pedophiles, and that's not cool." Even so, such negative attention has certainly taken a toll on the family's public profile. Controversial connections. As much as the general public enjoys poking fun at Scientology, the truth is that when the religion first decided to base itself in California, it made studio execs uneasy. The church had been offering acting classes for those looking to make it big in the business for a long time, but their ambitions became clear in 2016 when they opened their very own movie studio right on Sunset Boulevard. While Will and Jada never confirmed that they were members, their dealings with Scientology were exposed in tax records, which highlighted a $1.2 million payment made to one of the church's schools by the Smiths Trust in 2010. When the school closed down in 2013, the couple got all their money back and have since associated themselves with Christian and Baptist churches instead. But mud sticks in Tinseltown. But that wasn't the last of their eyebrow-raising financial conflicts. The Smiths rep took another blow in 2015 when controversial leader of the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan, revealed that the couple had donated $150,000 to help fund a rally for the group, which had links to domestic terrorism. The former Fresh Prince has spent his career strategically avoiding controversial roles in order to minimize risk, but by associating himself with a controversial political group, he made it a little bit harder for Hollywood to keep on flogging his nice guy shtick, which might be why audiences have become resistant to cough up for tickets to see either of them. Box office bluster. The days when Will Smith was considered a sure thing in Hollywood are now well and truly behind us, with his 2016 Christmas Turkey Collateral Beauty the final nail in his A-list coffin. The film's opening numbers were the lowest ever recorded by a wide-release Will Smith vehicle, and studios began to see the pattern emerging as clearly as everybody else could. Will had been through another nightmare just 12 months prior when his buzzy performance in Concussion wasn't acknowledged by the Academy, nor did it turn a profit. That followed on from the monumental flop that was After Earth, the 2013 sci-fi flick starring Will alongside his son Jaden. The would-be blockbuster cost $130 million to make and only managed to claw back $60 million in US receipts. And Jada's projects don't fare much better either. In fact, the most success Jada has had in her career to date is when the audience hasn't been able to see her, voicing hippopotamus Gloria in the animated Madagascar franchise. The only meaty role of any kind she's been able to sink her teeth into recently has been in the realm of television when she played Fish Mooney on Gotham. In the end, no matter how brightly a Hollywood star shines, when they burn out, no one's interested anymore.
The world was always going to know who Willow Smith was because of her famous parents, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. But rather than ride on the coattails of her parents' fame, she wanted to create her own path. Here are some of the ways Willow has transformed from a Hollywood child to a talented and insightful young woman. Growing up with famous parents was not something Willow wanted, nor was it something she found easy. She shared her thoughts on the topic in an interview with Girl Gaze, saying, "Growing up and trying to figure out your life while people feel like they have some sort of entitlement to know what's going on is absolutely excruciatingly terrible, and the only way to get over it is to go into it." She also feels as though this toxic environment can take its toll on mental health, saying, "I feel like most kids like me end up going down a spiral of depression, and the world is sitting there looking at them through their phones, laughing and making jokes and making memes at the crippling effect that this lifestyle has on the psyche." Willow explained that when you're born into celebrity, you only have two choices: embrace that world completely and try to, quote, help from the inside, or totally vanish from the spotlight. She added, "There's really no in-between." Maybe that's why, when asked where she sees herself in 10 years, Willow told Interview magazine in 2016, "I see myself in the mountains, somewhere in a tent. I want to retreat back to living off the land and just being in nature, experiencing life in the most pure, natural way possible." Don't confuse Willow for a millennial because she's from Generation Z and proud of it. This is the generation of kids who were born post-1995, and according to HuffPost, they make up 25.9% of the United States population. If you've ever wondered what it was like to be part of this generation, Willow has the answers, and according to her, it has its downsides. In her interview with Girl Gaze, she agreed with the general consensus that she and the other post-millennials are part of the most anxious generation. Some may think this anxiety is linked to a technological obsession, but Willow noted it's not quite as simple as that. She agreed that having access to any information at any time has repercussions, saying, "We look on our phones and we see people dying right next to us and we're sitting there about to go get a latte. It breaks you down." But then she added, "It's not just the phones. The phones are just a tool. The phones just heighten what was already happening." In an interview with People, Willow revealed that shaving her head back in 2012 was, in her words, the perfect way to rebel. She had realized that being a pop star wasn't the life she wanted, and, well, you can't whip your hair back and forth if you don't have hair, right? Sadly, cutting her hair didn't provide the relief she was seeking. Willow then started down a path of self-harm, looking for, quote, a physical release of all the intangible pain that's happening in your heart and in your mind.
I was experiencing so much emotional pain, but my physical circumstances were reflecting that.
But as she began reading up on science and spirituality, Willow had an epiphany of sorts. She explained, I was like, this is pointless. My body is a temple, and I completely stopped. It seemed literally psychotic after a certain point because I had learned to see myself as worthy. This news came as a shock to Willow's mother and grandmother, she told the publication. In fact, for a long time, only one friend knew about it. She explained, I never talk about it because it was such a short, weird point in my life. When Willow turned up for a 2016 interview with Teen Vogue, she did so wearing a cropped t-shirt with the statement, never underestimate the power of a woman. And according to her, truer words have never been written. Willow is incredibly passionate about women supporting each other. She explained that her shoot for the publication was special because it was the first time that she had ever been shot by a female photographer. Upon meeting each other, the publication notes how Willow reacted with excitement and exclaimed, this is so cool. I've never been shot by a woman before. Not for anything this major. There is such a need for more female photographers, physicists, astronauts, doctors. Teen Vogue revealed that Willow's favorite topic of conversation is how the tide is turning in many spaces where young women and people of color are underrepresented. The idea that girls should like pink and boys should like blue is outdated, and Willow chose to remind everyone of this in an interview with Refinery 29, saying, I'm a black female in the 21st century. My favorite color isn't pink, it's black. That's not the only thing that she feels sets her apart from the norm, and many find her progressive approach on this topic to be refreshing. She said, I'm not obsessed with getting married or having kids. Gender norms put people in boxes and don't allow them to really get to their full potential as a human being. Slowly but surely, dudes are starting to wear nail polish and become more in tune with their feelings. Change is happening and it's very exciting. She credited her open-minded and out-of-the-box perspective to her mom, Jada, explaining, when she was younger, she was all about reforming the paradigms. Whether she asked for it or not, Willow's parents' fame gave her a platform, and she could either ignore it or embrace it. She chose to do the latter, and she's been using her voice and image as a powerful tool to inspire young women. When Willow was 15, she was invited by French fashion house Chanel to be one of their ambassadors. It's a role that Willow took seriously because even back then, she understood that, in her words, it's not every day that a 15-year-old black girl with dreads gets elected to be the Chanel ambassador. She told The Telegraph she realizes the importance of being a role model for those who are not represented by the media, saying, I know a lot of girls that look like me feel that they're not beautiful and feel like they don't have a place in the media or a place in the world. I want them to know that's not true. And if you're confident and you love yourself, then everything you see, your perception will start to change and you'll see things differently. There's nothing average about Willow Smith. She has a unique approach to the world. She knows this and embraces it, and she made sure the world knows it as well in an interview with The Fader, saying, I've just been doing so much growing up, I'm really just becoming a woman. Damn, I'm really a woman. Seeing how my thought processes have changed over the years and how my observations get keener. Everything is getting more clear, but also I'm starting to see the spectrum of life in such a new way. It's so gray and uncomfortable and joyous. It's the first time I'm seeing life and experiencing relating to human beings in a completely different way. Willow told the publication that as she grew into her later teen years, she started to understand the difference between authenticity and image management on social media. She noted that there's often a discrepancy between the words we say and our actions. Although still a teen, she had already spent a lot of time philosophizing about deep subjects like love and identity. Willow thinks a lot about love and relationships. Her approach to love is interesting. She believes in giving your partner complete and utter freedom. She explained to The Fader that letting your insecurities take over can ruin any relationship, whether it's friendship or romantic love. She explained how insecurities can make you act in a way that isn't out of love, but rather out of fear, saying, as much as we want to hold on to these people, love and relationships you have to enjoy and release. Smith went on to explain how holding on too tightly can harm relationships, adding, let things go where they need to go. Don't hold on, because when you hold on, you kill love. As soon as you say, this is mine, or this is my boyfriend, or this is my girlfriend, you've massacred your real relationships.
Wise beyond her years?
Yeah.
Although Willow had a tumultuous relationship with fame early on, she didn't stop making and recording music. In 2015, she released her first album, Ardipithecus. The singer explained the meaning behind her album's title when speaking to The Fader, saying, Ardipithecus rhamidus is the scientific name of the first hominid bones found on Earth. I wanted to name my musical compilation after it because while I was making these songs, I was in such a transitional state. 2 years later, Willow dropped another album, this time entitled The First, which she described to W Magazine as the emotional regurgitation regurgitation from the depths of a burgeoning woman. Then in 2019, she released the self-titled album Willow. In a review of the album, NME described it as a mellow and melodic blend of psychedelic folk and dreamy R&B built around gentle guitar strums and a few jagged riffs. The publication also said the album is, quote, proof that Willow's talented enough to stand apart from her dynastic family. Just as Willow herself has changed since releasing her debut single, her subsequent songs are vastly different from the pop hit Whip My Hair.
I don't want to put out like a thing that I want like the world to see me as, because it's like everyone's going to see me as what they want to see me, and like everyone is just a projection in a mirror.
In 2018, Willow became a co-host on Red Table Talk, a Facebook-based talk show that has since become #1 on the social media platform and boasts over 300 million views, according to Deadline. Willow shares the table, which is actually red, with fellow co-hosts Mom Jada and Gammy Adrienne Banfield Norris. It was Willow's mother who, after doing some, quote, interior work, came up with the idea for the talk show. Jada told NPR, "And I just realized that in part of my growth, the women and the people who had the courage to be very transparent with me with certain aspects of their journey really helped my journey tremendously. I was like, why don't we talk about this more often? Why is it such a secret of what people go through?" And so she created a deeply personal, multi-generational safe space in which no topic is off limits. According to Jada, the talk show has even provided her an opportunity to learn more about her daughter, particularly as it pertains to her past struggles. By the time Willow turned 19 years old, she had secured her role as a co-host on a wildly popular talk show, released 3 albums plus multiple singles and EPs, and announced a co-headlining tour with her brother Jaden Smith. Those are all things to celebrate for sure, but her parents are proud of their daughter for different reasons. In an Instagram post on her daughter's 19th birthday, Jada revealed, "What a powerhouse you are in all your precious gentleness and blooming heart. I'm so proud of the woman you are becoming, and it is my joy in learning how to love you and honor you more and more every day." In his own heartfelt social media post, Willow's dad wrote to his daughter, "You taught me what it really means to love somebody. You taught me to let go of my dreams, demands of what you could, should be, and to trust, surrender to your personal visions for your life. It has been an awe-inspiring pleasure watching you blossom. No, we're not crying, you're crying."
Jada Pinkett Smith is not known for keeping her silence on a topic. Over the years, she's dished about everything from love to affairs to parenting. But does she have a shady side she doesn't want you to know about? Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith may have been married for over 20 years, which is basically forever by Hollywood standards, but that doesn't mean they're rocking a conventional relationship. In fact, Jada in particular admitted to having an affair with August Alsina, but only after the rapper spilled the beans in an interview with Angela Yee.
I totally gave myself to that relationship for years of my life.
While Jada denied Alsina's other claims that Will gave them his blessing, she did confess on Red Table Talk with her husband that what Alsina said was true, but downplayed it as an entanglement. Eventually, she was pushed to acknowledge that it was a relationship.
A relationship?
Yes, it was a relationship, absolutely. I was in a lot of pain, and I was very broken.
She even suggested that her intentions with Alsina were pure and that she wanted to help him when he was struggling with addiction. While Jada clarified that her affair happened when her and Will were taking time apart, she accepted that there still was healing to do because of her actions. You could say that Jada Pinkett Smith has put her husband Will Smith in multiple embarrassing situations, which probably hasn't been good for his Hollywood image. While it's bad enough that the Men in Black actor had to publicly discuss his wife's romantic entanglement with another man, what's worse is that it resulted in the sad Will meme. It appears that Will is often tasked with defending their relationship and his own reputation because of questionable things Jada has said about marriage. The Aladdin star did imply that their open marriage was Jada's idea in an interview with GQ, saying, "Jada never believed in conventional marriage. Jada had family members that had an unconventional relationship. So she grew up in a way that was very different than how I grew up." It's also safe to assume that Jada discussing the downside of their sex life wasn't a good look for Will either. While talking with Gwyneth Paltrow on Red Table Talk, Jada suggested that keeping their spark alive is hard, adding,
"The accountability part really hit for me because I think you expect your partner to know, especially when it comes to sex."
Right. Fans were quick to point out how that shamed her husband, regardless of her intent. Fans may be surprised to learn that Jada Pinkett Smith once had a problem with drugs and alcohol that could have ended her career back in the 1990s. The Scream 2 actor revealed on Red Table Talk that at one point, she used to drink wine like it was, quote, like Kool-Aid. She also claimed, quote, I could drink almost anybody under the table. While the mother of two admitted that her heavy drinking began as a teen, it's when she moved to Hollywood that she began engaging in harder drug use as well. Smith, however, only considered herself a weekend party girl, even though she admitted that her substance use probably stemmed from mental health issues. She recalled being in my depression, using ecstasy, drinking a whole lot, and smoking a bunch of weed and trying to just find some peace in my mind. She added that deep down she realized an addiction was around the corner unless she got help. Yet it was an incident on the set of The Nutty Professor that jeopardized her career that served as her wake-up call.
I went to work high, and it was a bad batch of ecstasy. Lord have mercy. And I passed out.
Jada Pinkett Smith has had beefs with other celebrities, specifically Bring It On star Gabrielle Union. Smith revealed on Red Table Talk.
We were great associates that at some point that dissolved, and for 17 years we have not really spoken.
In 2018, Smith decided to end their feud on her show. Whether that was just for ratings or not, Smith confessed,
Hey, I'm sorry that I didn't even take the time to talk to you. And then I had to just apologize.
Union later dished on the Today Show that she wasn't even sure what led to Smith not liking her, asserting that it was the media and various people around them who fueled the rumor. Jada Pinkett Smith and her husband, Will Smith, were once investigated by the Los Angeles Department of Children and Family Services after a photo of their then 13-year-old daughter, Willow Smith, in bed with a shirtless then 20-year-old actor, Moises Arias, surfaced on social media. While a source told Radar that the case was being taken very seriously by the department, Jada herself told reporters there was nothing sexual about that picture or that situation. Jada later described the incident on Red Table Talk by saying, quote, the kids got to see for the first time why Will and I had been so protective. Yet it wasn't the only time her parenting style was under fire. She faced criticism when her husband admitted to Metro that he and Jada, quote, don't do punishment, explaining that they prefer to give their children as much control over their lives as possible. Whether or not you find the Smiths' hands-off approach to parenting to be sketchy, Jada dished on her show that she's been mom-shamed a lot over the years for various reasons. She revealed,
I got shamed a lot, for Willow.
Crazy.
But Jaden was like,
Yes.
that was hardcore.
You think
she added that it was exacerbated by the Louis Vuitton photo shoot in which Jaden Smith wore a skirt. In terms of Willow, she recalled specifically,
the first time I got hardcore criticism, when you first cut your hair.
Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith may have been married for over 2 decades, but you could say it's shady that they started dating when the Bad Boys star was still married to his ex-wife, Cherie Zampino. Jada's mother dished on Access.
When Will first called you, I think he was still married or he was just separated or something.
He was just separated, yeah.
And I was like, he's not available to you?
While Jada joked about him being practically divorced, if not officially divorced, she later admitted on Red Table Talk that at the time she, quote, didn't understand divorce. She even told Zampino on the show that because Will was married, she probably should have backed off. With that said, it's no surprise that Jada recalled her past relationship with Zampino as being rough, but took responsibility for it. She explained that she feels sympathy for Zampino, saying, when I think back to where I was, some of my insensitivities, some of my inconsideration just in regards to you guys unwinding a marriage and me trying to get in there. What made matters worse is despite placing herself in Will's first marriage, Jada admitted she never actually wanted to marry Will herself, and only did so because she got pregnant. She recalled to People, my mother was like, you have to get married. She's so old school, and Will wanted a family, so I said, all right, maybe it's something I should do. Jada Pinkett Smith has never been shy about her personal life, yet she still shocked some fans by confessing she once had a sex addiction. Smith revealed on Red Table Talk,
when I was young, I definitely think I had a sex addiction of some kind. Yes, that everything could be fixed by sex.
While she admitted that her sort of addictions jumped to different things, she realized she needed to get to the root of her obsessions. She explained,
the behavior that's attached to it. Because if you want to have a lot of sex, that's great, but why are you having all that sex? That's what you gotta look at.
Jada Pinkett Smith may give off a warm and friendly vibe to fans, but the actor does apparently have a not-so-nice side that can come out sometimes. Smith even confessed on Red Table Talk.
I've done some very unloving things to people that I love.
Yep.
Because of my fear and my ego.
She elaborated, saying, "Once my ego kicks in, we in trouble. That Jada baby, she ain't cute. She's a vicious one and she's mean." Outside of being hard on those she loves, Smith has also confessed to being confrontational towards some of her husband's admirers when she felt they crossed the line. She explained on her show, "There was only like 1 or 2 times where I might have gotten a little hostile, where I felt like people stepped over a boundary and they were disrespectful. Now we got an issue." While it's not cool that Smith can be vicious or hostile toward others, it seems like a good sign that she at least acknowledges her questionable behaviors and has made steps to do better. All in all, Smith may have a shady side, but she definitely embraces it and isn't afraid to open up about her mistakes, even if her revelations often do make for juicy headlines.
There are a few things about Will and Jada Pinkett Smith's marriage that many people would consider to be, well, weird. For instance, the famous pair reportedly stopped calling each other husband and wife some time ago and have hinted in interviews over the years that they don't necessarily believe in monogamy. But on July 10th, 2020, they did something that many couples definitely wouldn't be willing to do. They sat down together on Jada's Facebook Watch series, Red Table Talk, to tell the world about the state of their relationship, talking specifically about Jada's extramarital affair with singer August Alsina. As Will mentioned on the program, it's the first time the couple have ever officially gone on record with the specifics of their personal romantic lives.
We've specifically never said anything.
Right.
So coming to the table was like, we just felt like it got to the point where you gotta say something.
During an episode of the former Gotham Stars show, the couple, who have been married since 1997, both opened up about allegations made by Alsina, the 27-year-old recording artist from Louisiana who was reportedly first introduced to Jada by her son, Jaden. In a recent interview that made waves worldwide, the singer claimed that he had been involved in a romantic relationship with Jada and even asserted that the relationship had Will's blessing. Though Jada's representatives responded at the time by saying that Alsina's claims were, quote, absolutely not true, she's now saying something very different. Jada didn't seem to hold back at all during the bombshell one-on-one discussion with her husband on Red Table Talk. While opening up about what happened between herself and Alsina, Jada explained that she first started a friendship with the singer more than 4 years ago, becoming, quote, really good friends with him. In her words, it all started with him just needing some help, me wanting to help his health, his mental state. But she said a, quote, entanglement later developed between the pair during a time when Jada was separated from Will, potentially permanently. Jada said that her time away from Will allowed her to learn more about herself and her feelings toward her husband, which she says helped her marriage get to what she calls a new place of unconditional love. That's probably the reason why Jada and Will were able to sit down together and have such a tough-seeming and very public conversation.
I feel like it's healing that needs to happen.
August Alsina met the Smith family when he was 24 years old, according to the Los Angeles Times. Claiming that August was in a hard spot in his personal life at the time, Jada said she wanted to help the young R&B singer, leading to the Smiths inviting Alsina into their home. Over the following few years, Alsina and the Smiths remained close. According to Page 6, Alsina went on vacation to Hawaii with the family in 2016 and went to the BET Awards with Jada in 2017. At some point, though, Will and Jada secretly split. On Red Table Talk, Will went so far as to say that he thought he was, quote, done with Jada, a sentiment that Jada confirmed. In her words, quote, we were over. Describing how their relationship had seemed to come to an end, Jada pushed back against one detail from Alsina's interview. Contradicting Alsina, Jada claimed that Will had never explicitly given the relationship his blessing.
Because I could actually see how he would perceive it as permission because we were separated amicably.
Jada went on to say, I think August also wanted to make it clear that he's not a homewrecker, which he's not. Though Jada and Alsina did engage in a romantic entanglement, sources told Page 6 that the relationship did not happen while Alsina was living in the Smiths' home. August Alsina took a chance to share his side of the story in late June 2020, during the lead-up to the release of his new album, The Product 3, State of Emergency. Alsina shared details about the relationship during an interview with radio show host Angela Yee, hosted on his YouTube channel. In the interview, Alsina stressed that he's not typically a fan of stirring up drama or publicizing his own romantic life. In his words, he's not a troublemaker, but this time he says it's different. With people questioning his character, he said he wanted to reveal the truth about the nature of his relationship with Jada. He said during the interview, "There are so many people that are side-eyeing me. I've lost money, friendships, relationships behind it. And I think it's because people don't necessarily know the truth, but I've never done anything wrong." Alsina insisted that he still has affection for the Smiths, calling them, quote, "beautiful people." But he also revealed that walking away from his relationship with Jada nearly destroyed him.
Trying to pull myself apart from it, it probably will be the hardest thing that I've ever experienced in this lifetime.
Will Smith might be one of the biggest movie stars alive today, and with that fame comes a huge amount of success. But the actor isn't a saint, and like most people, he has made some big mistakes. Keep watching to see the shady side of Will Smith. Early in his career, Will Smith made the mistake of thinking that cash would keep flowing in after he got his first taste of fame. During an episode of Storytime, Smith said,
"Before I was getting in trouble with Uncle Phil, I was in trouble with Uncle Sam."
As part of the hip-hop duo DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Smith released a successful album titled He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper, and won a Grammy in 1988. He then went on a spending spree, buying designer clothing, cars, and motorcycles. But the rapper made another huge financial error. He didn't pay his taxes. To make matters worse, because of his cavalier spending spree, the then 19-year-old had no money to pay the U.S. government when it noticed his neglect. Smith recalled on 60 Minutes in 2007 that the IRS basically took everything from him. He estimated that he owed about $2.8 million in back taxes and had less than $5 in his bank account. After losing it all, Smith decided to move to Los Angeles. To make the trip, he borrowed $10,000 from a friend of his, who he called a purveyor of neighborhood pharmaceuticals. So many of Will Smith's contemporaries would have clamored for the opportunity to speak to Tupac Shakur, but jealousy kept the Men in Black star from showing the celebrated hip-hop hitmaker any love. Shakur was close friends with Will's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith. She even possesses at least one unreleased poem by the late rapper, which she shared on Instagram in 2021. During a 2020 appearance on The Breakfast Club, Will spoke about Jada's bond with a man he once viewed as a rival. He said, "They grew up together. Jada just loved him. He was the image of perfection, but she was with the Fresh Prince." Jada begged Will to get to know Shakur, believing that the two would become friends if Will would just break the ice. But even when Will found himself in the same room as Shakur, he steered clear of him. Smith continued, "I suffered a raging jealousy. I wanted Jada to look at me like that. The way Jada loved Pac rendered me incapable of being friends with him. I was too immature." Shakur was shot and killed in 1996, and by 1998, Will had recovered from his jealousy enough to pay tribute to Shakur while accepting his Grammy for Best Rap Solo Performance. During his Breakfast Club interview, Will confessed that he now wishes he'd put his pride aside and spoke to Shakur when he was alive. Will and Jada Pinkett Smith have confessed to using some unconventional parenting methods to raise their kids, including being lax with rules and discipline. Will told Metro that his philosophy was to give his kids control over their lives as young as possible. But some critics seemingly thought the parents were being far too permissive in 2014, when 20-year-old actor Moises Arias shared an Instagram photo of their then 13-year-old daughter Willow Smith lying on a bed with him. Arias deleted the pic, but not before someone decided that it merited an investigation. The Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services eventually cleared Willow's parents of any wrongdoing, with an insider telling Radar that there was no evidence presented that Willow has ever been in any danger around Moises, or that she has ever been physically or emotionally abused. However, Will and Jada were reportedly told to monitor their kids' social media accounts a little more closely. Jada and Willow spoke about the incident during a 2019 Red Table Talk episode. They revealed that the person who contacted authorities had claimed that Will and Jada were starving Willow, who decided to eat a bowl of cereal in front of a visiting social worker to disprove the allegation. Jada said of the ordeal,
"The kids got to see for the first time why Will and I have been so protective."
Yeah. As Old Town Road hitmaker Lil Nas X can attest, homophobia is still an issue in the hip-hop industry. But some Will Smith fans might be surprised to learn that the Wild Wild West rapper, who makes it a point to keep his lyrics rated PG, is guilty of making ugly, prejudiced remarks about gay people. The 1986 album He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper features a recording of Smith telling a live audience, "All the homeboys that got AIDS, be quiet. All the girls out there that don't like guys, be quiet." And this wouldn't be the only time he would insult the gay community. While filming The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Smith decided to prove that he was ready for serious movie roles by starring in the 1993 film 6 Degrees of Separation. But what he wasn't ready for was a scene that called for him to kiss co-star Anthony Michael Hall. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Smith said, "I was thinking, how are my friends in Philly going to think about this? I wasn't emotionally stable enough to artistically commit to that aspect of the film." Smith's explanation didn't fly with actor Ian McKellen, who wrote on his website, "Will's twinge of homophobia was unseemly and unnecessary. When I met him at the Los Angeles opening of the movie, I made sure to give him a kiss for the benefit of the paparazzi." Will Smith chased down bad guys in the 1995 buddy cop movie Bad Boys, but years earlier he found himself on the wrong side of the law. Smith got arrested in 1989, so he had some real-life experience to draw from when he was shooting his mugshot scene in Hancock. In 2012, the National Enquirer published Smith's mugshot photos and listed his charges, which included assault. His bodyguard had beat up a record promoter and severely injured one of his eyes, allegedly at Smith's behest. In his memoir, Will, Smith explained that he was only arrested due to the existence of a Pennsylvania law stating, "If one person commits a crime under the control or direct influence of a master, then the master is legally liable for the actions of the submissive slave party." He also accused the victim's attorneys of pursuing legal action against him because they assumed that they could get a big payout, but he wrote, "The joke was on them. I didn't have a dime to my name." The charges were dropped, but Smith had to stay in jail longer than he should have because his arrest happened on a Friday. Spending the weekend in the clink gave him plenty of time to think. He said, "I am laying on the floor in a jail cell and I am like, you've got to be kidding me. I won a Grammy 8 months ago. Like, what is happening?" It's not unusual for actors to fall for their co-stars, but when a marriage is involved, things can get messy. Will Smith was married to his first wife, Sherry Zampino, when he landed a role in the 1993 movie 6 Degrees of Separation. The young actor was filming with a cast of seasoned thespians that included Donald Sutherland, Ian McKellen, and Stockard Channing, and naturally he wanted to prove himself worthy of working with them. Unfortunately, an experiment with method acting made his personal life awkward. In his autobiography, Smith wrote, "Sherry and I were in the first few months of our marriage with a brand new baby, and for Sherry, I can imagine that this experience was unsettling, to say the least. My character was in love with Stockard Channing's character, and I actually fell in love with Stockard Channing. So the movie was over, and I went home, and I was dying to see Stockard. I was like, oh no, what have I done?" He did eventually see his co-star again, but decided to keep his crush to himself. When the Grease star learned about Smith's feelings for her many years later, she had nothing but praise for her secret admirer. "That's very lovely to hear. We liked each other and trusted each other. That's actually quite rare." Will Smith was already interested in Jada Pinkett Smith when he met his first wife, the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Sherry Zampino. In a 2018 Red Table Talk episode, Will recalled seeing Jada on an episode of A Different World and feeling an instant attraction to her. He attended a taping of the sitcom in hopes of meeting her, but Zampino caught his eye while he was there and they ended up clicking. Will and Zampino ended their 3-year marriage in 1995. By then, Will had met Jada, and while Jada is adamant that Will did not cheat on Zampino with her, he recalled how his feelings for Jada overwhelmed him when he was out with his wife one night. He confessed, "I had to get up from dinner when I had a realization that I wasn't with the person I was supposed to be with." Zampino is actually the one who decided to file for divorce. She felt that Will didn't have the ability to give her what she needed. But it still stung when Will started dating Jada before their divorce was finalized. On Red Table Talk, Zampino spoke to Jada about one of the fiery exchanges they had at the time. Zampino recalled one moment in particular when she called to speak with her son.
"You living in a house I picked out. You said, it's my house now."
Fortunately, the women were able to look back on the incident and laugh. Will Smith's songs might be squeaky clean, but the Gettin' Jiggy With It singer seems to have a hard time censoring himself when it comes to his sex life. After getting in peak physical condition to play boxer Muhammad Ali in 2001, he told Premiere, "I am a sexual machine now, raring to go every second of the day. I'm human Viagra. I am Will-agra." Smith's sexual appetite had not diminished by 2021 when he told GQ that he and an intimacy coach had discussed his desire to have a harem. The Aladdin star even shared the names of 2 famous women whom he would include in if he were a real-life genie capable of granting his wish: actor Halle Berry and ballerina Misty Copeland. He said, "The idea of traveling with 20 women that I loved and took care of and all of that, it seemed like a really great idea." Smith has a habit of sharing way too much information about his love life. In Will, he wrote that he once had so much sex that climaxing started to make him throw up. And in his GQ interview, he confirmed long-standing rumors that his marriage to Jada hasn't always been monogamous. However, after giving his harem fantasy a little more thought, he concluded that it would be terrible in reality. When Will Smith bragged about not cursing in his songs in his acceptance speech at the 1999 MTV Video Music Awards, one of the musicians that he beat in the Best Male Video category was Eminem. The prolific profanity user seemingly thought Smith was dissing him, and Eminem later lobbed an expletive at the Fresh Prince in the real Slim Shady. In 2000, the Atlanta Constitution asked Smith to address his rival's complaints about his self-censorship. He told the newspaper, "I'd rather wait 5 years and let's see who's still here, and then we'll talk about it. I don't have any ill feelings." Smith stayed true to his word, taking a lyrical shot at Eminem and boasting about the ever-increasing size of his bank account in his 2005 song Mr. Nice Guy. On the track, he sings, "Dissed by Eminem, but did it bother him? Yep, but he classy. Big Will just did another 20 mil. Walk right past E." But it seems like Will Smith always knew that Marshall Mathers was going to be a star. DJ Jazzy Jeff once recalled being in a recording studio with Eminem and overhearing Smith telling the up-and-coming artist, "You are either going to be the biggest flop in hip-hop or you are going to be the biggest thing that we have ever seen in hip-hop." Will Smith and his son Jaden have had a close bond from the very beginning. Jaden appeared in his dad's music video for Just the Two of Us when he was just a baby and worked on 2 movies with Will. But Will confessed that he and his oldest son Trey Smith, whose mother is Will's ex-wife Sherry Zampino, have had to work harder to build their relationship. In 2018, Smith wrote on Instagram that, "We struggled for years after my divorce from his mother. He felt betrayed and abandoned." Will updated fans on how he and Trey were doing the following year on his Facebook Watch series, Bucket List. At the time, Trey was 26. He said, "Really, in the last 2 years, has there been enough wisdom and emotional development to be able to lovingly address the issues? You cannot get around spending time if you want to build love. It's something I failed at for most of Trey's life, but I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to making up for it." The father and son did have some good times when Trey was growing up. On Instagram, Will revealed that they used to film their own Matrix spoofs called The Traytrix for Trey's birthday, even though the movie franchise is a sore spot for Will. He has always regretted turning down The Matrix to star in Wild Wild West. Growing up, Will Smith was concerned about what his grandmother thought of him. In a 2015 appearance on The Graham Norton Show, Will said he was 12 years old when his granny read some of his earliest, filthiest songs in a book and left him a note that read,
"Dear Willard, truly intelligent people do not have to use words like this to express themselves."
He stopped using profanity in his songs, but he didn't stop exposing his poor granny to explicit content. Will appeared on The Graham Norton Show again in 2021 and recounted a prank he played on his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith. He put his sinister scheme in motion right before Jada met his granny for the first time. He started his story by saying, "My grandmother Gigi is all the way down with Jesus because she didn't know who Jada was. I put on a movie of hers." The movie had a sex scene in it, and Will made sure that his grandmother saw it. Just like Will, Jada got a dressing down for engaging in behavior that Will's grandmother didn't approve of. Will continued, "She looked up and said to Jada, 'When I was growing up, people didn't have to take their clothes off to make a movie.'" He tried to tell Jada that she would appreciate his hijinks someday, but confessed that she never did look back on the moment and laugh. On The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, viewers often saw family members put aside their differences to support one another when they needed it most. But according to actor Janet Hubert, Will Smith made her life so much worse when she was already going through a tough time. Hubert played Aunt Viv on the sitcom from 1990 until 1993 when she was replaced by Daphne Reed.
But you two knock it off. You're married. It's time you start acting like it.
Viola, this is why I got married.
In 2011, Hubert told TMZ that she believed it was Smith's fault that she ended up losing the role. Her animosity toward him was so strong that she swore she would never participate in a Fresh Prince reunion. She said, "I will never do anything with an like Will Smith. He is still an egomaniac and has not grown up." She blasted him again in a since-deleted 2016 Facebook post, accusing him of brushing her off when she asked him to help the rest of the cast negotiate better contracts. Smith and Hubert eventually did make amends during a 2020 HBO reunion special. Hubert revealed that she was struggling during the period before she lost her job. She had just given birth and said that her husband was abusive and jobless. Smith apologized for the way he treated Hubert, saying, "I wasn't sensitive, I wasn't perceptive. I can see where I made the set very difficult for Janet." It took decades for Janet Hubert to get an apology from Will Smith, but it didn't take long for the actor to realize that he'd screwed up by cursing out one of his bosses. In his book Will, he recounted how he once decided to make a few of his own modifications to some Fresh Prince of Bel-Air scenes that were falling flat. This resulted in Smith getting reprimanded by an unnamed NBC executive. While Smith described the executive's behavior as condescending and abrasive, he misinterpreted the man's actions. Smith bristled when the exec decided to remain standing for their meeting and got more agitated as the exec walked around the room. Smith reached his breaking point when the exec allegedly told the actor that he was replaceable. Smith jumped up, got in his face, and said, "What the f*** you wanna do, b****?" He continued shouting at the executive and even ordered him to sit down, and Smith didn't relent when the man told him that he'd just had back surgery. After he cooled down, executive producer Quincy Jones, the man who possibly saved Smith from financial ruin by pushing him to audition for Fresh Prince, assured him that his outburst was no big deal. The 2022 Oscar ceremony took a dramatic turn when Will Smith took offense to comments Chris Rock made about his wife's hair. Every hot take possible was written about the moment Will left his seat, cursed at Rock, and slapped him. It seems like every celebrity in the world had one take or another. Even O.J. Simpson weighed in on Twitter, where he spoke out against Will's violent actions. But Will's former Fresh Prince co-star Janet Hubert took his side, writing in a since-deleted Instagram post, "Sometimes you have to slap back." The drama started when Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith starring in a G.I. Jane sequel, a reference to her buzzed head. Jada rolled her eyes as her husband laughed, but Will's mood suddenly darkened. Rock's joke likely didn't go over so well with the couple because Jada has alopecia, a condition that causes hair loss. Smith went on to win the Best Actor Oscar for King Richard. In his acceptance speech, he acknowledged that, "I know to do what we do, you got to be able to take abuse." The tearful actor didn't apologize to Rock at the time, but he addressed him by name later in an Instagram post, saying, "I was out of line and I was wrong. I am embarrassed and my actions were not indicative of the man I want to be." In the continuing fallout from the slap, Variety is reporting that Smith has resigned from the Motion Picture Academy.
Friction on the set of Fresh Prince, an outpouring of anger, who called him a narcissistic madman, these are the stars who have some beef with Will Smith. Janet Hubert played Aunt Viv on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air for 3 seasons before her ongoing beef with co-star Will Smith led to her being replaced in 1993. She told HuffPost Black Voices nearly 2 decades later, "My departure was planned for a long time. There will never be a reunion of The Fresh Prince. Will Smith and Alfonso Ribeiro destroyed a 20-year career with untruths. I got slammed." Will apologized later in an Essence magazine article, but it still lingers. It's still there. What could have caused such animosity between these two? Hubert has long claimed that Smith declined to help her convince NBC to issue a pay raise amid contract negotiations. Meanwhile, rumors that she was difficult to work with, spurred on by her above-mentioned former co-star's public comments, derailed her career. After years of sparring in the media, 2020 saw Hubert and Smith settle the feud during the series' HBO Max reunion special, despite the former previously stating she would never attend. While it seems that her conflict with Smith was only one of the many reasons why Hubert left, she told him that she, quote, "lost everything."
Because I had been banished. And they said it was you who banished me.
Smith publicly apologized to Hubert, and luckily for longtime fans, they've since remained on good terms, with Hubert even defending Smith's behavior at the 2022 Oscars. Chris Rock's G.I. Jane joke about Jada Pinkett Smith obviously did not go over well with Will Smith. But it turns out this wasn't the first time there may have been tension between Rock and the Smiths. When the comedian hosted the Academy Awards in 2016, he poked fun at Jada's decision to boycott the ceremony, quipping, "Jada boycotting the Oscars is like me boycotting Rihanna's panties. I wasn't invited." Although the Smith family didn't publicly speak out against the joke, all parties seemed to be on good terms at the time.
This really doesn't have anything to do with you. You kind of drifted into a no-fly zone.
While Rock likely had no real beef with Will prior to the slap, here's where the comic stood in the aftermath. Per NPR, Rock declined to file charges with the LAPD, breaking his silence on the matter during a stand-up routine in Boston days later. He said via Variety, "I'm still kind of processing what happened, so at some point I'll talk about that shit, and it will be serious and funny." While we're all hoping there's a chance for a reconciliation, a source cited by Hollywood Life claimed that the ordeal was still raw, emotional, and confusing for Rock. Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the 2022 Oscars was arguably the most controversial moment of his career. Considering his subsequent apology, we imagine even Will might agree that the shocking slap probably wasn't the best way to solve the conflict. Judd Apatow was among those who called out Will's controversial behavior, although some think he took it too far. Apatow wrote in one since-deleted tweet, "He could have killed him. That's pure out-of-control rage and violence." After receiving pushback in the Twitter sphere, the director clarified his statements on SiriusXM's Pop Culture Spotlight with Jessica Shaw. He admitted that he wasn't actually watching the Oscars when he took to Twitter, but was instead informed of the incident while on the phone with a friend. He's also stood by his statements about Smith in other interviews.
As soon as that line is crossed, really anything can happen. That's what happened, but something else could have happened.
Apatow also told Pop Culture Spotlight with Jessica Shaw, "I just think there certainly is a way of handling dissatisfaction, which should never tell people that the solution is to break that barrier and leap on the stage and commit an act of violence in front of people who are inspired by you."
Well, I had a whole show planned, but I got to throw that out because I want to vent about this Oscar thing that occurred.
True to form, Howard Stern took to a SiriusXM radio show to share his opinion on Will Smith's Oscars controversy in March 2022, and the blunt radio show host did not hold back, saying, "This is a sign of great mental illness when you can't control your impulse. Not only that, it was hardly an insulting joke. It was not even a good joke." It may be safe to say that Stern wasn't too fond of Smith after the headline-making incident, because he even compared the King Richard actor to former US President Donald Trump. Stern also criticized the Academy's handling of the situation, including the lack of security taking action. For context, while there have been mixed reports on whether or not Smith had been asked to leave the ceremony following the slap, per Variety, the star still went on to accept the Best Actor award mere moments later. And the shock jock didn't feel that there was much to look into after the Academy announced a formal investigation into the matter, given how the entire incident was broadcasted live on TV and immediately went viral on social media.
Will Smith assaulted another human being, and you guys did nothing.
Kathy Griffin was not afraid to call Will Smith out for his actions at the 2022 Oscars. After the incident, she tweeted, "Let me tell you something. It's a very bad practice to walk up on stage and physically assault a comedian. Now we all have to worry about who wants to be the next Will Smith in comedy clubs and theaters." It was perhaps unsurprising that Griffin, who has been known to push the boundaries of comedy herself, had concerns about the safety of stand-up comics after seeing Chris Rock get slapped over a joke. And this star knows a thing or two about controversial comedy. You may recall that she received a great deal of backlash after sharing a gruesome image of then-President Donald Trump.
Social media firestorm is breaking out right now over a tweet by comedian Kathy Griffin about President Donald Trump.
Unfortunately for Griffin, the consequences of this action likely far surpassed anything Smith might have faced for slapping Rock on live TV. According to the New York Times, Griffin and her team had to meet with the Secret Service and Department of Justice as a result of the shocking pic.
And considering charging me with the crime, this is real, of a conspiracy to assassinate the President of the United States.
So given her own past controversies, her Twitter statement led to some pushback of its own, but it's clear where she stands on the Will Smith issue. Not unlike Howard Stern's critical take, Rosie O'Donnell had a problem not only with Will Smith, but also with the Academy for its handling of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air alum's attack on Chris Rock. Clearly, O'Donnell was siding firmly on Team Rock. Logging into Twitter to share her concerns with the world, she didn't exactly go easy on Smith, writing, "So upsetting on every level. Bravo to Chris Rock for not eviscerating Will Smith, which he could do any day of the week. He walked away. Bravo from a sad display of toxic masculinity from a narcissistic madman." In addition to making it clear that she believed Rock could demolish Smith in a battle of the comedic minds, O'Donnell further questioned the Academy's initial response to the entire situation. In a separate tweet written in response to a statement released by the organization about not condoning violence, she asked, "Then why did you do nothing?" O'Donnell didn't stop there. She also retweeted messages from her peers who didn't agree with Smith's actions. Just days after the 2022 Oscars, Jim Carrey announced his plans to retire from acting.
"I have enough. I've done enough. I am enough."
However, he still made sure to let the public know that he didn't support Will Smith's act of violence prior to his final farewell from Hollywood. Jim Carrey doesn't always get involved in controversies, but he certainly had something to say about this one. He let it be known that on top of condemning Smith's actions, he was also disturbed by the audience's reaction to Smith winning Best Actor shortly after.
I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse.
Carrey went on to explain how he felt that Smith's anger was completely unexpected and uncalled for, noting, "You do not have the right to walk up on stage and smack somebody in the face because they said words." Carrey even took a moment to detail what he would have done if he were in Rock's shoes. "I'd have announced this morning that I was suing Will for $200 million, because that video is going to be there forever." Luckily for Smith's bank account, Carrey was not actually involved in the incident. Still, although he obviously wasn't the one who took the literal and figurative hit, it seems Carrey is not on the best of terms with Smith following the Oscars incident. It is perhaps no surprise that Chris Rock's brother, fellow comedian Tony Rock, came to his siblings' defense. The Shade Room reported that, vocalizing his frustrations during a stand-up show in the days after the 2022 Oscars, Tony said, "If you think you're gonna walk up on the stage, this ain't the motherfucking Oscars. And if you walk your up here, you ain't nominated for shit but these motherfucking hands." As the crowd cheered the seemingly fired-up comic on, he decided to take a direct dig at Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, adding, "I didn't want to start the show like that. You gonna hit my motherfucking brother?" Tony also made his beef with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air star clear on Twitter. When asked if he accepted the actor's apology the day after the Academy Awards, he bluntly replied, "No."
It's impossible to think about Will Smith without also thinking about Jada Pinkett Smith. But did you know he was married before? And did you also know that he felt that divorce was not an option? So how did it all go wrong? Here's the inside scoop on Will Smith's divorce. Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith have always had intertwined worlds with Shady Zampino, even if they weren't always aware of it. They were so connected that Will's introduction to Shady began with his infatuation with Jada. Will saw Jada on an episode of the 80s sitcom A Different World, and he just had to meet her. So he arranged for a set visit through his The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air co-star Alfonso Ribeiro. But that's when things got twisted. Will ended up getting onto the set the same day Shady was there visiting her friend and show writer Orlando Jones, who ironically was supposed to introduce Will to Jada. But Shady told Hollywood Unlocked that Will ended up getting her number from a different acquaintance of Jones, and the two began dating. They eventually married and had their first child, Trey. In an episode of Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talk, Will admitted he went to a different world to meet Jada, but he instead met Shady and ended up marrying Shady and having Trey with Shady. Will added, "I didn't meet Jada that day. We had all these near misses." Jada Pinkett was always the one Will Smith wanted, and he ended up falling for her while he was still married to Shady Zampino. Will and Jada finally met on the set of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and started dating while he was still in wedlock, something Pinkett says she regrets doing. In a 2018 interview with Access, Jada says, "He was div. The Orst hadn't happened yet." Will later revealed on Red Table Talk that he was unable to act on his attraction and, quote, broke down in tears in a restaurant bathroom while at dinner with Shady one night. He stated he had a revelation that he was supposed to be with Jada and not Shady. Although Will didn't believe in divorce, Shady didn't share the same sentiment. She decided to file for divorce on Valentine's Day in 1995, telling Will she no longer loved him. Years later, Shady opened up in a 2016 Facebook video, stating, "Our marriage ended because we were so young. It's just a lot of responsibility. Marriage is not easy, especially at that age." During Will Smith's 3-year marriage to Shady Zampino, his schedule was setting him off to be one of the biggest names in Hollywood. Smith was already the star of a wildly popular sitcom and was about to launch a burgeoning film career with blockbusters like Bad Boys, Men in Black, and Independence Day. If Will Smith wasn't a household name at the start of his marriage to Shady, he definitely was not long after it. By the late 2000s, he was declared, quote, Hollywood's most bankable star by Forbes. Shady later explained the increased estrangement in a Facebook video, stating, Will was becoming bigger and bigger with his career. I'm becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, and we didn't have the tools to make it work. She elaborated in an interview with Hollywood Unlocked. I think at that point in time, with Will's career taking off, to start now making movies, of course, he had the TV shows, the rapping. He didn't have the capacity to give me what I needed. I didn't feel like a team. One thing Shady Zampino wanted to make clear was that there was no infidelity on her or Will Smith's part in their marriage ending. But the claim was contradicted by the late actress Alexis Arquette in a 2016 Facebook post in which she claimed Zampino was paid to keep quiet after catching Smith in the act with his then manager Benny Medina. Arquette further alleged that Smith, quote, threw a fit on the set of 6 Degrees of Separation over a kissing scene with another male actor and seemed to be Arquette's way of verifying alleged homophobia that plagued Smith early in his career. But Zampino addressed Arquette directly, stating, "I left because I was unhappy. It's really that simple." Both Will and Jada Pinkett Smith have also confirmed that there was no affair while he was still married. In June 2020, Will Smith sat down to talk with Jada Pinkett Smith about his time with Shady Zampino in a special Father's Day episode of Red Table Talk. In the emotional chat, Will admitted that getting divorced from his first wife represented ultimate failure at the time. Will told Jada,
I don't think anything touches the failure of getting divorced from my 2-year-old son's mother.
The effects of his divorce were felt in his relationship with his son Trey Smith, which Will says he struggled for years to build a solid foundation. In a November 2018 Instagram post, he captioned, "It has not always been like this between Trey and I. We struggled for years after my divorce from his mother. He felt betrayed and abandoned. It is a wild blessing to recover and restore a loving relationship with my beautiful son." It seems Will's goal was to always ensure his family felt tight-knit and loved, and repairing his relationship with his son was a step in the right direction. One of the more fascinating aspects of the Smith household is how they have managed to work in a co-parenting arrangement with Shady Zampino. Trey Smith even refers to Jada as his, quote, bonus mom. Jada and Will's children, Jaden and Willow Smith, also have a close relationship with Shady, having spent a lot of time with her throughout their lives. The blended family even travels and spends birthdays and holidays together. But this wasn't always the case. When Shady was Jada's first Red Table Talk guest, the two women reminisced about when things weren't so friendly. Jada addressed the awkwardness, asking Shady if she recalled a phone conversation that turned into a full-on fight. Shady had called looking to talk to her then 3-year-old son Trey, but Jada answered and proceeded to tell Shady she didn't like her tone and hung up on her. Shady told Jada,
I happened to say, quote, "Bitch, you living in a house I picked out. You said, it's my house now."
Things got so heated between the two that Will had to step in. Jada explained,
Will Smith, let me have it.
She explained that Will had stated it was Trey's mother and it was not Pinkett's place. At the start of their Red Table Talk chat, Jada Pinkett Smith confessed to Shady Zampino by stating, "Here's the one thing I will say in hindsight, because I didn't understand marriage, I didn't understand divorce. I will say that I probably should have fell back. When I think back about where I was, some of my insensitivity, some of my inconsideration just in regards to you guys unwinding a marriage and then me trying to get in there." Shady even admitted that Jada was always willing to apologize when her stubbornness caused issues. The two later broke down in tears when Shady said the hardest part of their relationship was when Will first introduced Trey to Jada, something she was initially against. But as time went on, she said about the situation,
And I'll tell you, on this side of things, my son could not have a better bonus mom.
Thank you, Ray.
No, thank you.
The two got reconnected again for an episode of Ask Jada Live Blended Families to give tips on how to address co-parenting issues. One of the more important tips came from Shady. You have to be secured and settled in the fact that no one can replace you as a mom. Your position is solid. The blended family of Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith, and Shady Zampino is clearly setting new standards for co-parenting and family dynamics. In an interview with Sway's Universe, Jada revealed that she is not always present during vacations that Will takes with Cherie and their son Trey. She explains that it is important for Trey to see positive interactions between his parents by stating, "If I'm going to love Trey, there's an aspect of Cherie that I have to embrace and have to love as well, consider and respect." Jada also stated that they are all a family. She stated about Will, "All that relationship and what people think ideas of a husband and a partner and all that, man, whatever, that's a man that can rely on me for the rest of his life, period." She further elaborated on today, revealing, "Through my journey, I learned to love Will in the most pure way and love everything that comes with that, and he's learning to do the same." For most marriages, divorce is the end, but it looks like divorce was the very beginning in a life of highs and lows for Will Smith and Cherie Zampino. We're all watching to see how the next chapter in their complicated relationship unfolds.
Childhood trauma, crying in her wedding dress, a lifetime of marital issues. Jada Pinkett Smith may live in luxury, but her life is anything but rosy. This is everything you need to know about her tragic real-life story. Jada Pinkett Smith revealed in an early episode of her Facebook Watch series, Red Table Talk, that her mom, Adrienne Banfield Norris, had been a heroin addict for most of Pinkett Smith's childhood.
She couldn't make it on time to pick me up from school, or she's nodding off, falling asleep in the middle of something.
Fortunately, Banfield Norris has been sober since the 90s, but according to the Red Table Talk co-hosts, the scars the addiction left on her daughter and their relationship have never totally gone away. Tragically, Jada herself has also struggled with her addiction. She's described herself as a person with addictions to more than one substance, and also as someone with a tendency toward binging on those substances. Speaking on Red Table Talk, the star once recounted what she called a rock-bottom experience with alcohol that eventually led to her quitting the drink cold turkey.
You in this house by yourself going on to your third
That's gangster.
bottle of wine. You
What's
might
going
have
on?
a problem.
Thankfully, despite the past transgressions, Pinkett Smith and her mom have a much closer relationship today. Banfield Norris even traveled with her daughter more than once to help take care of her kids, something that Pinkett Smith expressed gratitude for on Red Table Talk. She told her mom on the series, "It helped me so much because if I didn't have you, I wouldn't have been able to do The Matrix. I wouldn't have been able to keep working. You went with me everywhere, and because of you, I was able to have my children with me. So thank you." In an episode of Red Table Talk, Jada Pinkett Smith opened up about struggling to forgive her late father, Robsol Pinkett Jr., who died of an overdose. Pinkett Jr. was not there throughout his daughter's childhood. He instead reached out only after Pinkett Smith beat the odds and achieved success in her career.
The issue for me was when I got into the position that I got in. And then he wanted to have a relationship.
Pinkett Smith later admitted that her complicated relationship with her father impacted her romantic relationships as an adult.
You expect your intimate partners to, in some way, be the thing that your father wasn't.
Yep. Jada Pinkett Smith also saw her mother, Adrienne Banfield Norris, endure domestic abuse from her father throughout her childhood. During one episode of Red Table Talk, the Set It Off star recalled asking her mother about a scar on her back. She explained that seeing the scar was the first time she realized her mother was a victim of domestic abuse. Banfield Norris went on to recall a terrifying incident in which she had to flee her own home in order to escape the abuse.
I don't even remember what the argument was about, but he started hitting me and he was in a rage.
Pinkett Smith was later brought to tears after hearing a family friend's heartbreaking experience in an abusive relationship. It seems the star was moved by the guest's story, partly because of her own tragic childhood. When asked about her relationship with the late rapper Tupac Shakur on the Sirius XM show Sway's Universe, Jada Pinkett Smith casually dropped a bomb.
When I first met Pac, when we first met, I was a drug dealer. And yes.
She didn't elaborate much on the topic during that interview. However, the next day, Access Hollywood was able to pull a few more details out of the Bad Mom star. Citing her desire to clear up misconceptions about this period of her life, Pinkett Smith revealed that her mother saved her by forcing her to leave Baltimore to attend North Carolina School of the Arts.
One day she just packed the car and was just like, "You're getting out of here."
This was the turning point in Pinkett Smith's life, and one that also served as a fundamental change in her relationship with Tupac. She told Access Hollywood,
I had started out one way, and Pac, started out one way, and then we kind of switched roles.
Jada Pinkett Smith and Tupac Shakur quickly became friends after they met on her first day at Baltimore High School for the Arts. Pinkett Smith once said that she didn't feel he was the type of guy she'd normally hang out with, but he eventually drew her to him, in her words, like a magnet. They maintained a platonic friendship even after Pinkett Smith moved to Los Angeles and Shakur went to prison. But once Shakur was released, his outlook on life seemed to change, causing a rift between them. This wasn't their first big blowout, but Pinkett Smith told Howard Stern that after Shakur was fatally shot and killed in 1996, she deeply regretted losing the opportunity to tell him how she felt about him.
Do not let disagreements stand in between you and people that you love and care about.
I can tell you're really emotional about him. I mean, you're crying.
Yeah.
To this day, she is still emotional about losing her friend, telling Sway's Universe that their friendship filled a deep need for her at that time in her life.
And when you have somebody that has your back, when you feel like you're nothing, that's everything.
With drugs and addiction weighing so heavily on her life since childhood, Jada Pinkett Smith eventually hit an emotional low point. On another episode of Red Table Talk, she opened up about wanting to commit suicide when she was 20 years old and how she called her mother in a panic.
I became extremely suicidal. And I had a complete emotional collapse.
She initially managed the situation with Prozac, but little did she know it would kill her sex drive, which prompted her to eventually quit the medication. Therapy also didn't help, forcing Pinkett Smith to forge her own path to mental health.
I had to just let go. Yeah. You know, and just come to terms with just what life is.
Despite her decision to quit therapy and medication, Pinkett Smith acknowledged that for many, those treatments do work and are necessary. Jada Pinkett Smith was also shocked when her daughter Willow admitted on an episode of Red Table Talk that she had also gone through a period of emotional pain and had briefly struggled with self-harm. Despite the shock, Jada later told Ryan Seacrest that she doesn't blame herself and understands why Willow didn't tell her.
This is not about you. This is not about what you should have done. This is really about you listening to your daughter and celebrating her strength.
While her marriage to Will Smith has been total relationship goals for many of us, Jada Pinkett Smith has admitted that for the longest time she didn't want to get married. The Girls Trip star explained that she was already 3 months pregnant at the time that she got married to Will Smith. She said that she felt pressured to have a wedding and was actually in tears as she walked down the aisle. She recalled on an episode of Red Table Talk, "My first trimester was horrible, and I was so upset that I had to have a wedding. I was so pissed." She also said she was never a fan of the idea of marriage in general.
I just never really agreed with the construct.
Exactly.
I just don't agree with it. I never have. I still don't.
Will and Jada prefer to call themselves life partners rather than being married. As she told People, "I needed a different form to dissolve all the expectations that I had of a marriage. I needed to do that to see Will outside of husband and see him as a human being." On another episode of Red Table Talk, Jada opened up about the serious marital struggles she and Will Smith had dealt with. She said that early on in their marriage, she felt she was living a life that seemed beautiful on the outside, but was actually in many ways inauthentic. Will, who also appeared on the episode, admitted that his desire to shower Jada with beautiful things, including a mansion and lavish 40th birthday party, was more about his own emotional needs than hers. "What I realized is I was building a picture. I grew up in a household where I was scared and watched my father beat my mother up, right? So I was gonna build the complete opposite of that. I had a public perception that I wanted to project of our relationship." Jada recalled being unhappy and yet confused at the same time, since her life on the outside was picture perfect.
Mommy woke up and cried 45 days straight.
Fans may recall that Pinkett Smith previously revealed she was romantically involved with singer August Alsina during a period of separation in her marriage. It appears that the infamous entanglement brought the couple closer together in the end. She told Will, "One of the things that I'm deeply grateful for in this whole process between you and I is that we have really gotten to that new place of unconditional love."
So I really think that it takes a lot of work separately, honestly, in order to have a good union.
While Jada Pinkett Smith looks super stylish in headscarves, it turns out there's a very specific reason she wears them. On another Red Table Talk episode, she revealed that she's been struggling with hair loss. The discovery of the condition was traumatic for her.
I was in the shower one day and then just handfuls of hair just in my hands. And I was just like, oh my God, am I going bald?
She also revealed that her alopecia was the reason for her close-cropped, asymmetrical hairstyles. Later, she explained in a video on Instagram that she's been treating her hair loss with steroid injections, which, according to her, are helping but not curing her condition. In late March of 2022, the topic of Pinkett Smith's hair loss battle came up again following a heated moment at one of the most controversial Oscar ceremonies to date. During the show, comedian Chris Rock joked about Jada's bald head and referenced the film G.I. Jane, in which the female lead sports a clean-shaven head. Pinkett Smith's husband, Will Smith, reacted by getting up from his seat to slap the comedian in an attempt to defend his wife. If you or someone you know is struggling with domestic abuse, please call or chat online with the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call or chat online with the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK-8255.
Why did Jaden Smith want to get emancipated? And what unusual accessory did he bring to the Met Gala? Whether you admire Jaden Smith or think he's over the top, these are undeniably his weirdest moments ever. Jaden Smith was a rather odd teenager. During an interview with the Life Files TV, he revealed that his interests were not what one might expect of somebody who was at the time 14 years old. He said in the interview, "I watch like Steve Jobs interviews, I don't really watch TV. I stopped watching TV when I turned like 10 because my parents were like, TV's really bad for you. I'll watch movies I like to see, Steve Jobs interviews, something that's going to make me smart, and then go to sleep. I always have to go to sleep with the TV on though." Smith went on to explain why he doesn't really enjoy watching TV, adding, "I'm always watching something, I just don't like watching TV. I don't like being sold something every 5 minutes a commercial comes up." So, if teenage Smith refused to watch TV, what hobbies kept him busy? Well, at the time, the 14-year-old was running his own clothing brand, Misfits. The line, which is seemingly still in business as of 2022, includes grungy streetwear that features colorful, bold designs. Perhaps Smith was onto something with his decision to avoid TV. After all, it seems to have allowed him to be productive enough to start a clothing line as a high school freshman. We've learned over the years that Jaden Smith doesn't appear to be afraid to speak his mind, even though his beliefs are sometimes controversial. The rapper is quite the conspiracy theorist, and this technology-related theory he believes in might shock you. When asked by HuffPost what theories people should be most aware of, the actor responded, "The technology that we're currently at is not the maximum of the human capability, and that there are places in the world where their technology supersedes what we see here on a daily basis. It's made by humans, and it should be acknowledged, and it should be looked at because it could heal a lot of problems." Smith went on to confirm these places would be similar to the fictional country of Wakanda, depicted in the movie Black Panther.
If the world found out what we truly are, what we possess, we could lose our way of life.
It is perhaps no surprise that the actor is so passionate about the possibility of Wakanda-like communities that could solve problems for those in crisis, because he has used technology to help places in need himself. In 2019, Smith partnered with Drew Fitzgerald to develop a portable water filtration system called the Water Box to help those in need of clean water in Flint, Michigan, and beyond. Jaden Smith asked to be emancipated at only 15 years old. The musician's father, Will Smith, opened up about the events leading up to Jaden's shocking request in his memoir, Will. Will Smith explained that tensions were raised after the failure of his film After Earth, which received horrible reviews after its 2013 release. According to Will's book, Jaden received a lot of backlash for his acting in the movie.
What was I supposed to do?
Will had instructed Jaden's performance, so the teen became upset with his father after he began to receive criticism. Will Smith wrote, "We never discussed it, but I know he felt betrayed. He felt misled, and he lost his trust in my leadership." At 15 years old, when Jaden asked about being an emancipated minor, my heart shattered. Jaden's mother, Jada Pinkett Smith, was also saddened to hear that her son wanted to leave home at such a young age. She spoke about the difficult time in the family's life during an episode of her Red Table Talk series, sharing that when he was around 15, they had a heartbreaking conversation.
You were like, "Mom, I have to leave here to live my life."
Luckily for Will and Jada, Jaden ultimately decided not to move forward with emancipation.
Education is one of the many topics Jaden Smith is passionate about. He's shared how he feels about traditional schooling in the past, though his opinions didn't go over well with many social media users. In 2013, a teenage Smith took to Twitter to share a series of messages that questioned traditional education. One tweet read, "School is the tool to brainwash the youth." Another read, "If everybody in the world dropped out of school, we would have a much more intelligent society." Smith's musician friend, Tyler the Creator, replied to that tweet with, "You actually kind of sound like an idiot." Smith's frustration with the school system could have to do with the way he was raised. The star was homeschooled as a child, but later attended a private school founded by his parents. In an interview with Essence, Jada Pinkett Smith echoed her son's opinion on traditional education, saying, "The school system in this country, public and private, is designed for the industrial age. We're in a technological age. We don't want our kids to memorize, we want them to learn." Jaden Smith is known for saying some pretty outrageous things in interviews. One interview with the New York Times T magazine gave fans a peek inside the then-teenager's brain. It turns out Smith seems to be very aware of how he's perceived by the public, and his outlandish image is all part of a bigger plan. He told a reporter, "The only way to change something is to shock it. If you want your muscles to grow, you have to shock them. If you want society to change, you have to shock them." Smith is very good at implementing a certain amount of shock value in everything he does, so it isn't surprising to hear this seems to be a goal of his. When asked about his plans for the future, Smith said, "I have a goal to be just the most craziest person of all time. And when I say craziest, I mean like I want to do like Olympic level things. I want to be the most durable person on the planet."
My first style inspiration is Batman.
Jaden Smith's Twitter rant about traditional education is tame compared to some of the other things he's tweeted in the past. The star has earned a reputation for being one of social media's most interesting verified users over the years. He once tweeted, "How can mirrors be real if our eyes aren't real?" This was perhaps overshadowed by the time the actor logged on to declare, "Most trees are blue." He explained the meaning behind some of his posts in an interview with HuffPost in 2018. When asked about the tweet that suggested eyes and mirrors are fake, the actor explained he got the idea from 2 scientific studies he'd recently read, saying, "So like, we can only see 3 base colors, but there's so much more on the electromagnetic spectrum of light that we could see, but our eyes are just not capable of seeing," which brought me to the realization that what we see on an everyday basis is not actually what's there. It's actually only what we can take in. As previously mentioned, Jaden Smith has a knack for reading scientific studies and developing his own conclusions. He actually even considers himself a scientist, and it turns out many of his controversial moments have been experiments. Smith spoke about his and his sister's approach to their careers in an interview with GQ, saying, "Me and Willow are scientists, so everything for us is a scientific test upon humanity. And luckily, we're put in a position where we can affect large groups of human beings at one time." For example, their T magazine interview was one of the duo's experiments. This might explain why Smith and his sister ridiculously suggested they can control time. He told GQ, "That experiment, it went really, really well. We got to see how people reacted, and they actually ended up reacting exactly as we predicted beforehand that they would react."
Poseidon has influenced me all types of ways.
Smith went on to compare himself to the genius astronomer and father of modern science, Galileo, stating, "People think you're crazy. I feel like it's an honor, actually, for people to think I'm crazy, because they thought Galileo was crazy too, you know what I'm saying? I don't think I'm as revolutionary as Galileo, but I don't think I'm not as revolutionary as Galileo." Even as a teen, Jaden Smith had a detailed plan for his future. In 2015, Smith outlined his 10-year plan in an interview with GQ. When asked where he wanted to be in the next 10 years, he simply replied, quote, "Gone." Fortunately, he went on to explain what he meant, adding, "No one will know where I am in 10 years. They'll see me pop up, but they'll be like, 'Where'd you come from?' No one will know. No one will know where I'm at. No one will know who I'm with. No one will know what I'm doing. I've been planning that since I was like 13. Though such an answer might seem selfish, the truth of Smith's plan was anything but. He said, "It'll be kind of like Banksy, but in a different way. More of a social impact, helping people, but through art installations." While the star has yet to disappear, he has helped communities through his efforts to feed Los Angeles residents who are experiencing homelessness. In 2021, he announced a plan to turn his I Love You food truck, which provides food to those in need, into a restaurant with the same purpose. Smith explained that the restaurant is also open to the general population, but those who have the means will be required to pay for their food and the food for the person behind them. If anyone knows how to make a memorable appearance, it's Jaden Smith. The star stood out at the 2017 Met Gala when he posed for photos with his blonde dreadlocks in his hand as an accessory. He told Vogue's Andre Leon Talley about his inspiration for the interesting fashion choice.
And since I couldn't bring my sister as a date, I brought my old hair.
He also explained that his all-black outfit was inspired by Dracula and The Matrix. The actor also brought an unexpected accessory to the 2018 Met Gala. In addition to wearing pieces from his own clothing line, Smith walked the carpet with the framed gold single certification plaque he received for his song Icon. During an interview with Mr. Porter for his Misfits clothing line, Smith revealed clothes have a deeper meaning to him and his brand, saying, "The collection is not just clothes to sell, it's loaded with spiritual experiences and mystical states. We're just making clothes that can go along with people's journeys." Jaden Smith's strong sense of individuality seems to impact his choices as a musician. His 2019 Coachella performance was an example of this. The rapper took to the stage to perform a set that included some of his most popular songs, like his gold-certified record, Icon. He also brought his sister on stage to perform. The most notable takeaway from the performance, though, was the Tesla Model X that was suspended in midair above the stage. Smith featured a Tesla in the music video for Icon that was released in 2017, so perhaps this was the inspiration for the stage prop. The musician's passion for technology could also explain why he's seemingly so interested in the electric car. Smith even told Above the Clouds that he believes there will be further developments in anti-gravity technology in the future, so maybe this is what he was getting at with the whole floating car motif. Tyler, the Creator, and Jaden Smith are alike in that they are both incredibly creative musicians, so it's no surprise that they're good friends. Dating rumors involving the two began circulating in 2018 when Smith announced that Tyler was his boyfriend at the Camp Flog Gnaw Carnival Music Festival, saying, "I want to tell you, Tyler doesn't want to say, but Tyler's my mother boyfriend, and he's been my mother boyfriend my whole life." It is likely that the rapper was joking because Tyler can be seen laughing and shaking his head in the audience. Neither Smith nor Tyler ever officially confirmed being together, and both have been seen with other partners since Smith's onstage announcement. In 2021, Smith was spotted kissing Cara Delevingne on Valentine's Day, according to the US Sun. Tyler, the Creator, meanwhile, is rumored to be dating Instagram model Rain Judge. The pair made a rare red carpet appearance at the LACMA Art and Film Gala in 2021.
She's 69 years young, 30 years sober, and 4 marriages in. You may only know Adrienne Banfield Norris as Jada Pinkett Smith's mom, but there's more behind this Smith family member. The age gap between Jada Pinkett Smith and Adrienne Banfield Norris isn't large. Banfield Norris had Pinkett Smith when she was just 17 years old. According to an episode of Red Table Talk dubbed the Invincible Black Women Epidemic, Banfield Norris faced discrimination during her delivery. Even though her father was a senior doctor at the facility, even that didn't protect her from victimization. Her pain was downplayed by those tending to her. Nevertheless, Banfield Norris had to be there for Pinkett Smith, a task that wasn't easy. Parenting at such a young age was a nightmare for the new mom, as she revealed on Red Table Talk, saying,
"They were the worst years of my life."
Wow.
Worst years of my life.
Why?
Because I was just so confused.
Because of this difficulty, Banfield Norris and Pinkett Smith did not have a close relationship, and in fact had one devoid of touch. Pinkett Smith instead found comfort in her grandmother. Unfortunately, when she was 13, her grandmother died. Pinkett Smith then shared she had to re-raise herself, revealing, "Her house was safe, and so once she was gone, there was no safety. So then, I went into the world and created my own safety." Adrienne Banfield Norris's woes didn't end at parenting Jada Pinkett Smith as a teenager. She equally had to endure an abusive relationship with Pinkett Smith's own father.
I knew that my mother and my father had a very violent relationship.
The sit-down about their relationship was one of the most requested topics for the Red Table Talk women at the time of shooting. It was also significant because it'd been the first time Willow Smith heard these stories about her grandfather. Asked what was the worst incident she experienced at the hands of Rob Saul Pinkett Jr., Adrienne Banfield Norris said,
"Oh, there was so many."
Really?
Yeah, like I have a scar on my back.
Well, that's
now.
when I.
The mark, according to Pinkett Smith, was from when her father threw Banfield Norris over a banister. These acts of violence often happened when Pinkett Jr. was intoxicated. Ironically, Banfield Norris's mother worked as a social worker and had told her to stay away from Pinkett Jr. during their first meeting. When the beating worsened and Banfield Norris finally had enough, she ran away to save her life. Prior to being a familiar face on Red Table Talk, Adrienne Banfield Norris was a practicing nurse. She had graduated top of her class from Coppin State University and worked her way through the profession for a solid 35 years for the New York Times. But on Red Table Talk, she was thrust into unfamiliar territory. It definitely changed her life, starting with its conception way back in 2013, when the first video was unofficially posted on YouTube. The show's official pilot episode, which aired in 2018, was an in-depth exploration of motherhood. Jada Pinkett Smith thought highly of her mother's career shift. As she said in an interview with Harper's Bazaar, "As a woman, it's such an amazing story because women feel like as they get older, their lives are over. It's not. It's never over. I don't care how old you think you're getting. My mother is 65, and her first freaking photo shoot is freaking Harper's Bazaar." Banfield Norris validated Pinkett Smith's sentiments during a 2018 episode of Red Table Talk, mentioning that the platform allowed her to explore her own internal self more easily. She continues to grow a massive social media following to the tune of over 500,000 on Instagram and has gone on to find her own voice through her Positively Gam podcast. In a talk with best-selling author Michael Pollan, Adrienne Banfield Norris opened up about her struggle with self-acceptance. As an adult, she had to deeply reflect on why she constantly didn't feel good enough. It had nothing to do with her childhood or upbringing, she explained on her podcast Positively Gam. Rather, she felt it was innate to who she was as a person. Banfield Norris brought to light that confidence wasn't her strongest suit, saying,
"I had very low self-esteem and very insecure. I didn't do anything that my sister didn't do."
This kind of thinking often prevented her from moving forward, so much that she felt dwarfed at Red Table Talk. Being at the table with her daughter and granddaughter, who are so articulate in front of the camera, only heightened her levels of insecurity, adding in another episode of her podcast.
"Sometimes I'm sitting at the table and I actually shrink." Yeah. Right? And I can't find my voice. I can't find my words to fit into the conversations.
Being ushered into the limelight meant that Adrienne Banfield Norris's private life would undergo a drastic change. All of a sudden, the genuineness of the people around her became questionable. By virtue of being Jada Pinkett Smith's mother and a regular on the Emmy Award-winning show Red Table Talk, she attracted all sorts of people from all walks of life. Unfortunately, some of them didn't have the best of intentions, as she shared on Red Table Talk.
And even for me as an adult, you know, you want to believe that people want to be your friend because they like you.
Similarly, Banfield Norris's granddaughter, Willow Smith, was vocal about the challenges of being famous, including a stalking experience she faced that lasted a number of years and resulted in a break-in. As such, Banfield Norris and her family take the enforcement of boundaries seriously, with fans and strangers alike. In fact, they take security so seriously that when a drone was spotted at the Smiths' residence in March 2022, the Los Angeles Police Department swung into action. While Jada Pinkett Smith and Willow Smith tend to bring a more modern approach to Red Table Talk, Adrienne Banfield Norris has always kept a reserved demeanor, although she tries to have an open mind. During an episode titled "Why Are Women Mean to Each Other?", Banfield Norris admitted to having a level of bias, saying,
And that's where a lot of the judgment comes from. The judgment comes from insecurity, yes, but it also comes with this false thinking that I have in my head that my way is right.
At the table, a number of uncomfortable topics have come up in the past, many of which Banfield Norris had a tough time navigating. When Willow opened up about adopting a polyamorous lifestyle in 2021, her grandmother took a tolerant approach. Later in the episode, however, when polyamory activist Gabrielle Smith came to the table, Banfield Norris said she found the concept confusing. Her more conservative nature was further tested when sex was discussed on Red Table Talk. She expressed her desire to leave Willow out of the discussion, but Pinkett Smith overruled her. Banfield Norris expressed,
I'm gonna pray on it. God help us all.
Adrienne Banfield Norris once revealed on Red Table Talk that for most of her daughter's childhood, she was a heroin addict. Her daughter, Jada Pinkett Smith, wasn't blind to it all either. Pinkett Smith revealed it all on Red Table Talk, saying,
I could tell when my mother was high. Or she's nodding off, falling asleep in the middle of something. You just realize, oh, that's not being tired. That is like a drug problem.
As of now, according to the New York Times, Banfield Norris is making up for lost time. She bought a home in Los Angeles, California, with her fourth husband, Rodney Norris. During the coronavirus pandemic, Banfield Norris has also spent her days staying fit and working on her continued sobriety by meeting with sobriety groups online. Banfield Norris's active lifestyle is splashed all over her Instagram account. During a Smith family intervention on Red Table Talk, the doctor's analysis showed that Banfield Norris was, in fact, one of the healthiest amongst the family, so much that he thought her age was a typo. Having been vocal about her journey to get clean, she paused to reflect and let her followers in on her journey with a reflective video on Instagram.
I've spent so many years
in that insanity of active addiction, running in and out, and just that revolving door, you know, trying to get my life back together.
While Banfield Norris has been sober since the 90s, the strain on her relationship with her daughter remains. In an interview with the New York Times, Banfield Norris shared, "I think people had this idea that Jada and I are so close and it's this amazing mother-daughter relationship. It absolutely is not, and I don't think that we've ever tried to portray it that way." In her own life, Banfield Norris intentionally opted to stay as far away from baby mama drama as she could, disclosing on Red Table Talk,
I've not had to deal with it because I purposely dated men that did not have children.
Despite her lack of baby drama, Adrienne Banfield Norris is pretty experienced with marriage. She first tied the knot with Rob Pinkett Jr. when she was in high school. The union was a result of the strictness of her traditional family, as she explained to Dear Media Studio in a 2021 interview.
That marriage only lasted for about a year.
Her second marriage began when Jada Pinkett Smith was 8 years old. After 4 years, however, the couple called it a day. While her third marriage took off at the onset of her recovery journey and was her longest lasting, it didn't last forever. After 20 years, it had taken a turn for the worst. She added to Dear Media Studio,
I was unhappy in the marriage, and I just really started thinking that, you know, I have more years behind me than I do in front of me, and I gotta be happy.
Now, when it comes to her fourth and current marriage, it goes way back. The love story between Rodney Norris and Banfield Norris goes back to 30 years to be specific. The pair had dated when they were younger, but weren't in the right mindset to make it work.
When we came back together 30 years later, she was a totally different person. And I was too.
That definitely seems to be the case, and the loved-up couple appears to be plenty happy together, sharing their affection for one another on social media. If you or anyone you know is struggling with addiction issues, help is available. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357.